This week, we're discussing PSVR2 projections and a price raise for Xbox. This is the Good Game Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game Bad Game podcast. Good Game Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who once questioned his ability to land roles in romantic comedies, saying, quote, I always look in the mirror and I ask myself, am I that unattractive? Is there something that unappealing about me that excludes me from these parts? I still have high hopes. I'll just keep searching. No, wait. That was Dave Batista. Anyway, joining me, it's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
That's so funny. I was trying to figure out who you could possibly be talking about, and I was going to say Dave Batista as a joke, just because he seems to complain about all the roles he gets.
Yeah. I somewhat feel bad for him. I feel like he just has very low self-esteem.
Yeah.
You just have
I
a
just feel like directors probably see him and they're like, meathead.
yeah, which is kind of fair. Anyway, how are you doing, buddy? How was your weekend games?
Ooh, no Stadia again. Just keep a quick update on that.
Nice. Yeah, please.
Um, we played a pretty, I have to say we, because most of the games I played this week were multiplayer games. I played with Justine.
hmm
Um, I think I mentioned like the week before Stadia died that Justine and I were playing Centipede Recharged on Stadia,
Yep.
and we ended up buying that for Switch because we had a lot of fun, and we played the hell out of that this week. And I can't say that I recommend buying it for Switch. It is very buggy and like there's a lot of stuff going on in the screen. So
hmm
like you can get like bombs in this version of Centipede.
Uh-oh.
And if you like stack up the screen with bombs and shoot one and there's a chain reaction, the switch just freezes for a bit, and then once it's done, then it lets you play again.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yikes.
Um and then I forget what happened, but we got really, really far, like maybe 4 or 5 levels from the end. And we were having this issue where like it wasn't counting our kills. Like we had this level where we had to kill like uh, 10,000 centipedes or something like that.
hmm
And if you would like shoot a bomb and kill a bunch of them, it wouldn't count it. So like that's weird. So we restarted and when we came back into the game. It like got rid of all of our progress.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So apparently it wasn't auto saving, which is wonderful.
That is a very harsh reality in 2023. A game that
Yeah.
doesn't have any semblance of autosave.
Well, like we didn't have that issue with Stadia.
Right.
So I don't. At one point, we like got kicked off the servers, which is really like just for leaderboards, I think. And I don't know if like autosave stopped when that happened or what, but it was a whole mess. The good news is it's not like it's one of those games where you're really that annoyed to play the levels again
hmm
because it's just an arcade game. So
Right.
whatever. But yeah, we sunk like a bunch of hours into that one night this weekend. Now we get to do it again.
Kind of a blessing, kind
Um,
of a curse.
yeah, it's fine. I mean, we had, like, just bought this game, and I'm like, "Justine, should we slow down?" And she's like, "No, I wanna play this game." I'm like,
Now!
"Okay." Well, we ripped through it. So now we get to do that again.
Nice.
We also play I convinced Justine to play Mario Party,
Nice.
and she hates Mario Party.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't really know why. Um, but we played, like, one 10-round game, and she ended up winning, so I don't know if she still hates it or now she likes it, but we did that. We played a bunch of the mini games, and then other than that, um, I played a ton of Cyberpunk.
Oh, nice.
I'm just trying to do everything in that game. I'll probably go for 1,000 gamer score.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I'll probably be playing a bunch of that, and I think Justine and I are gonna start Unravel too.
Oh, nice. That's a really good game.
She started playing Unravel because I think that's only one player, right?
Yeah, also a very
Yeah.
good game.
So she's playing that right now. She kind of needed a new game, and when she's done with that, we'll play. Or we might start Unravel 2 at the same time.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Sick.
good variety in games this week.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny. I also played a game of Mario Party this weekend.
Very nice.
Yeah. Um, and I'm very much the person that like when I play Mario Party with other people, they're just like, or the people that I consistently play with, I should say, they're like, "Oh, Spencer's just gonna win." And I'm like yeah, I feel like I have like the advantage
Yeah, I
when it comes to like mini games, but and I don't want to say that like because I think Mario Party is very much luck based. Like like you can try and like big brain and like come up with like a strategy and stuff like that to like how you're going to get to a star and stuff. But then the fourth player, which is the computer, uses the chain chomp whistle and moves the star, and you're just like, well, fuck me, I guess. Um,
right.
that being said, mini games obviously still play like a huge role. So like being good at those does like have an effect. But I'm just like I don't know, like and it's just the worst when like something like you land on like a hidden block space and it gives you a star, which didn't happen, but like that's like the sort of thing that would happen for me, and it's just like I couldn't have controlled that. You know what I mean? Like the game decided to gift it to me because it felt bad for me, you know? My life has been so hard up until this point. All I have is Mario Party. They just don't understand. So I won and but I started playing last week and I've been streaming it. So I think I've done like 3 streams of it. So probably put like close to 10 hours into it at this point. I started playing Hades and oh my God, dude,
Ugh.
it is so fucking good. It is so good. I've done like 17 runs. Um, so it's very close to Binding for me, for Binding of Isaac for me.
Mm.
Um, except this is a roguelite instead of a roguelike. So with Binding, you could have this like amazing run going, get to the like Satan, like really deep into the run, die, and that's it. But in Hades, the nice thing is that you could spend an hour on a run, die, and it's like, but I still gained something through that run. And then you like go back to like yeah, I forget what Hades Palace is called. But you like go back there and you upgrade some stuff and try again. Um, it's so much freaking fun, dude. I'm having an absolute blast with it. Um, and like the story is like I'd say better presented than some other roguelikes. So it's also similar to I guess Moonlighter in the sense that like you go into dungeons and then like you either in Moonlighter you can complete the dungeon or like call yourself out. In Hades, like you have to die or just like get out to like finish. Um, but then there's like that like in between dungeons where like in Moonlighter you like run a shop and you like sell stuff, and in Hades you like talk to other demons and stuff and like build relationships. They give you benefits. It's sick.
Yeah, I really wanted to play that game before it left Game Pass.
Yeah, and that
And
just
now I really
happened not too long ago, right?
I want to say it was like last maybe early fall or something
Okay.
like that.
All right.
It may have been like August or something.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, it's it's so good. It's so good. Um very happy that like I don't. I think it was like $5 off or something. And I was just like, fuck this. I need to just pull the trigger and get this game. So, and I didn't want to wait for it to come to like the PS Plus catalog or like I didn't want to play it on like Game Pass because if it were to leave, I mean, you can always just buy it, but like I wouldn't want to like feel rushed, which is what normally happens with me when like a game's like about to leave. So, like
Hmm.
with a roguelike, it's like no, I definitely just want to own it because like I love being able to just like go and do runs and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so it's been an absolute blast. London, friend of the show, popped in to tell me how much he loved Hades, and he also was talking recently. I think he posted something on the podcast about playing Cult of the Lamb and then wanting to start Nobody Saves the World after that. And those are two that are like had been on my short list. And so I think after Hades, I'm just gonna it's like same deal, just like pull the trigger on getting Cult of the Lamb and playing that because I don't really know why I just haven't at this point. So
Right, that always seemed like a game that was right down your alley.
yeah. So um yeah, I'm playing Hades and then uh when not streaming, I did something rather disgusting this past week. Last week I talked about how I was playing Vice City and how I was like cleaning it up.
Hmm.
And so I got the platinum in Vice City. And the PS4 Definitive Edition and the PS5 Definitive Edition have separate trophy lists. And so I got the platinum for the PS5 version on Saturday, I want to say. And then I was like, well, because it has like collectibles, like hidden packages and stunt jumps and stuff like that. I was like, well, while I have the energy and I know where like some of these like harder ones are, I'm just gonna start with the PS4 one, get to like free roam and do as much of it as I can before even doing like any of the story. Just so like all I have to do is come back at some point and do the story. And I want to say Monday night I I finished in like platinum the PS4 version of it. Uh,
So,
Go ahead.
you said this was Vice City, right?
Yeah, Vice City.
So Vice City doesn't lock down parts of the map that you have to like play in the story to get to.
Um, it does. You have to play through like I don't know, maybe like 20% of the story to open up the entire map, basically. Like you just have to get to a certain point in the story, and then like both sides of the map are open, and you can just go anywhere.
Gotcha.
So, um, yeah, pretty grindy, but I got it done, and it's really funny because the like time disparity between the two, like the PS5 one. So like my first playthrough, I think I put like probably 25, maybe almost 30 hours into it to finish it up. Um, the PS4 version was like I don't know, 15 hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I was kind of ashamed of myself. Felt kind of dirty afterwards. I was like, did I really just do that? But it was an honest platinum, you know. So it wasn't just a transfer and pop platinum.
Hey,
So
a platy is a platy.
a platy is a platy. Totally unrelated. Quick side note: saw a guy get absolutely bullied off of r/trophies because he presented like a. Wouldn't it be cool if PlayStation did like a virtual shelf where you could like display your like your favorite platinums, like or the ones that you're most proud of, like 10 spots. It's the platinum for each game that like you're most proud of. And they were like something like this, and it would like also show your like trophy totals. And this man had like 2,000 platinums, but then he also had twice as many gold trophies as he did bronze. And everybody was just like, how do you have more gold trophies than you have bronze trophies? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Then somebody found the dude's profile on like PSN profiles, saw that like all of his games that he was playing were like Taco Jump, Taco Jump Turbo, and like all
Oh
of those
no.
just like all of those just I forgot what they're called. Um I don't know, it'll come to me naturally like tonight. But yeah, by the time I got there, his Reddit account was already deleted. Like I saw the
Oh my
post, like I saw the post, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
god.
this is actually pretty neat." And it's just like I go into the comments because I also notice it. I'm going into the comments, and everybody's just like, "Yeah, this dude fucking sucks. He's the he's just shovelware. Is it called shovelware? I don't know." They were just like, all he does is buy those games, and he's part of the problem. Like they these games are literally at the top of like the PlayStation Store. I don't even know if I've talked about this, but it's like terrible. Like if you go into like the PS Store and like under new releases, like 75% of them are just like Taco Jump or like change the name of the food Jump, and then there's a turbo version, and then there's a third version like XL or something like that. And they're all like $3 or less. Like the base is one, the turbo will be like $2, and like the XL will be like $3. And each one has a platinum. It's garbage, and it like sits at like the top of your screen. But I think finally PlayStation's doing something to combat that.
Yeah, that was like a big reason as to why I just kind of stopped. Like I still obviously love getting achievements and stuff for like my personal gain, but one of the main reasons I like really stopped the grind to like get achievements in like a competitive manner because there's just so much shit out there.
Yeah,
And like don't get me wrong, I have 2 platinums and my name is Mayo, but
three platinums.
3?
Well, two in my name is Mayo. One in my name is Mayo too.
Oh, right. And soon to be 1 and my name is Mayo 3.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like I remember that being a big deal. Well, I think like right at the beginning of the PS4 era, and they're just like people are just putting these games out there to buy platinums.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Whatever.
The
Now that
only
guy is Redditless.
Yeah. The only platinum I bought was my name is Mayo. And I find that game to be charming and funny. So
I mean, and you and I like did it as a race.
yeah, we made like a game out of it.
It's not like you were just like sitting in your basement grinding Mayo.
Yeah. Um yeah, that's like my typical stipulation is like I do care about getting platinums. I absolutely want to get like as like if I play a game, my goal is typically then to try and platinum it. Um, but like the thing is like it typically needs to be a game that like I want to play and like we'll get some sort of enjoyment out of. So um yeah, thought that was funny though. Wanted to share. Speaking of PlayStation, we can jump right into our first topic, which is there's a report from Bloomberg, I believe it was, that Sony was cutting their PSVR2 headset output, uh, basically due to low pre-orders. And I was also seeing, I forget who gave these numbers, but I think the original number that Sony thought they were going to sell within the first quarter release window was 2 million, and they've cut that to 1 million. Um, that's like expected to sell, I believe. Tom Warren followed up on a tweet where he was boosting this Bloomberg article and basically said Sony says it has not cut PlayStation VR2 production numbers, which was the original report. And he said so, denying the Bloomberg report. Nonetheless, I think there is an expectation that they aren't going to hit the original mark that they thought they were going to with PSVR2.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Right.
Pessimist in me. It's just it's a hard bargain. I mean, this is not going to get people to buy PS5s, as we've said,
Mhm.
100 times on this podcast. Um, and everyone is saying, well, why would I pay if I don't have any VR setup whatsoever? Why would I pay over $1,000 for a PS5 and this when I can just get the Oculus Quest or whatever the baseline one is for less than the headset is alone
Mhm.
for the PSVR2? Obviously, that's like neglecting the fact that, in my opinion, the Oculus Quest is not that good,
Mhm.
but it is good for most people.
Right.
And at this point, like, we're still kind of in the gimmicky, this is fun kind of stage of VR. Um, but it's a hard bargain for people who want to get into VR. I mean, again, I have to use myself as the case study. I really like VR.
Mhm.
I still play my original PSVR, but it's not worth over $1,000 to me.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the thing that's like the shame of it. If PSVR was simply just like a PlayStation like gimmick, I'll say. That's maybe tough wording, but if it was simply just like nothing more than like an accessory, kind of just like a cool novelty thing, like it'd be fine. But like I feel like there's a really good chance to push the VR uh world forward here. And so this is a real missed opportunity to not ensure that it like gets to people, right? Like this could ultimately PSVR 2 with what it's sounding like could be really good for the VR landscape. And uh yeah, the price point though alone. I mean, hell, just $550 for it up front is that's a lot of money, you know?
Mhm.
And then to your point, like the fact that you need to have another piece of hardware first, again, if it were just like a novelty thing, if it was just like simply a PS accessory, no big deal because like you're trying to only sell it to your base. But in this sense, like you kind of need to bring people who aren't in your base in first, then give them this. And that's just tough. Like that's a lot all at once.
I'm kind of shocked. I expected these to sell out pretty quickly. Um, the PS5 is I think this is correct, but someone can fact check me. I think is the highest selling console between that and the Series X.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. It's a little scary that it didn't. They basically only hit half of their um, estimate for these. Like who are you selling to then? Because I feel like we're in this weird space of VR where it's like Sony obviously has the IP to have these awesome experiences in VR.
Right.
I just watched a video. I think it was from PlayStation Access, which obviously they're biased, but they got to do a demo of the new Horizon game. I forget what the subtitle is.
Call of the Mountain, Call of the
Is
Wild.
that it? I think Call of the Mountain sounds right. Um, and like from the gameplay they were showing, and like what they were talking about with their experience, like it's really cool and really immersive.
Mhm.
It looks great, but how many people want to be in a narrative world in VR? Like I feel like a lot of people are still just kind of pulling out a VR headset as a party trick to play Beat Saber.
Right. No, I mean,
Um,
you're 100% right.
which I
Uh
think sucks. Like I obviously want these big narrative worlds in VR. I've plugged a ton of hours into PSVR and the games that came out.
right, and I think this was like the good opportunity to get people who are into narratives into VR, right? Because it's like, I look at VR and it's like I love story games. Like so I feel like the VR experiences that I had the most fun with were like the I expect you to die
Mhm.
where it's like, right, is that what the name of it was?
Yeah,
Um
that was like the escape room kinda game.
yeah, like like
Yeah.
that, and there's like, like I don't know. It's not just like Guitar Hero or Beat Saber, effectively, where it's like arcadey, um, still fun, obviously, but like, um, if those are the only types of games, it's just like, I can kind of pass on it. But yeah,
Hmm.
as soon as you get, like you said, like PlayStation's big IPs in there, like, hell, if you just made a God of War like $5 game that lets you walk around Midgard, um, that'd be sick as hell, right? Like, um, just allowing you to explore the worlds that they've created. But I mean, I think the idea of giving these like actual like fleshed out narrative like experiences is sick. Um, it's just a matter of convincing the right people now to get a VR. Um, I think these numbers, I think with how vocal people are, I agree with you. I also thought like this is going to sell like hotcakes and like they're not going to learn any sort of lesson here, right? Like I always draw the comparison, but it's like kind of the Apple thing where it's like, I'm going to make you pay $200 for a dongle and everybody will complain about it, but everybody just still does it in the end. And so they just
Right.
keep doing it. That's kind of what I expected to happen because people are so vocal, to shout out all the fanboys, but it turns out that they're all broke ass, bitch ass, can't afford no $550 piece of hardware. Um, so I don't know. I think people were vocal about like their support for it, and then you know when it came time to actually like, okay, now Sony's like, okay, hands out, like now buy it. People were just like, oh no, I wasn't serious. I was just trying to use you. I was just trying to use you to dunk on the Xbox over there. Our PSVR has more games than Xbox.
Mm.
uh, so I don't know if it was like somewhat that or what, but um, yeah, I kind of felt like this shit's gonna sell, and it's always just gonna be this expensive like paywall for people who probably would actually get really into it. But yeah, hopefully this shows like I feel like it's kind of like a console itself, where it's like you sell it knowing that like you're not gonna necessarily make money on the hardware itself, but it's like the experience that you can give with that is what's going to pay dividends in the long run. And so I don't know like I don't know what their profit margin is or anything like that on these headsets. I'm sure they do need to be expensive, but I just question, does it need to be $550 expensive? Does
So
it
I
need to
will
be
say
more
this:
expensive than a console?
the PSVR one's build quality was dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's got like fake leather on it, and it's the kind of fake leather that like all Sony products use. I don't know if you've ever bought like, or I should say, PlayStation branded Sony products, because like Sony headphones, like high quality ones, don't have this issue. But I don't know if you've ever bought any of like the PlayStation branded headsets,
Yes, sir.
but if you use them long enough,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and I don't know if you've had this experience like mine. They're about to get thrown out because they're literally just disintegrating.
Yeah, I admittedly haven't had the issue with the, I think they're called the Pulse
Is that the
headset.
PS5 one?
Maybe, but whatever the one gold, I think was the PS4
Mm-hmm.
one. I have both. I have a gold and I have a Pulse, and um I mean I don't use them like religiously. Um so I haven't had an issue with either of those, but I do remember my PS3 ones, which I believe were PlayStation branded. Um but now I can't remember. I do believe those started to have that like deteriorating issue. And like
Yeah,
it
and in
just gets like
all
peely and everything and it's
yeah,
gross.
and in all fairness, my PlayStation headset is from the PS3 era. I got it like right at the end of it, and they ended up like basically repackaging it and selling it for PS4 as well. So it
Hmm.
was like the premium PS4 headset. Um, but the PSVR one was made of the same shit,
Yeah.
and I got to the point where like I couldn't use the VR without there being like black flakes all over my face. So I just like caved and peeled all that shit off.
Hmm.
And like I can't imagine just seeing the PSVR2. It looks like it's made of the same dog shit materials that Sony uses for PlayStation products. Like, I would be pretty mad if I bought this thing for $550 and then, you play it and I like people are like, "Oh, well, you need to wipe it down after use." Well, I did that. I
Right.
had like a dedicated like microfiber cloth that every time I was done playing it, I wiped it down and it still didn't help.
Right.
Um, so that kind of bothers me. I think they're probably making a pretty good profit on this. I don't think it's I mean, once you get past the engineering costs, the R&D, like that's the biggest expense of this, but to actually produce them, they're probably pennies on a dollar.
Yeah.
Um, so I have this weird internal conflict. I've been thinking about this a lot. Is $1,100 really that much for a VR headset, like or a VR experience, the whole setup? And I'm thinking back to the first time that I ever played VR, and I was working for a computer company, and we would build custom computers for people. And the HTC Vive had just come out, and we built a rig and bought the HTC Vive as like a demo unit. And I mean, you weren't spending less than $2,000 for this whole rig. I mean, you needed a $1,300 computer at bare minimum.
Hmm.
And then I think the Vive was like $1,100 when it came out alone for the headset and like the zoning equipment.
Right. Sometimes that's just like the price of early tech.
Yeah, I mean it always is.
Right.
But I would say VR is still relatively nascent, and
Yeah.
we're talking this was probably 2015, 2016, so less than 10 years ago, and the price is pretty much already halved for a similar experience.
And on top of yeah. Yep. Yeah. Like yeah, you're having both components of it. Your the system requirement and the the hardware itself. Um because obviously I'm assuming if you build a $1,300 PC, you're not simply using it technically for VR, right? Like
Right.
uh you'd also hopefully be like playing other games on it. Which is to in this scenario, the PS5. You wouldn't just pay $500 for a PS5 just to play VR. You'd end up playing other games on it. That would at least be the assumption.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're in my case where it would basically just be VR and then like first party games, but all other games would probably get played on an Xbox.
Right. You would still technically be playing those first party games, so
True. And that would
but
be a significant amount.
yeah, but no, but I mean, it's still technically limited in the end, which again can play into the argument of is it actually worth it to get right now? And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, uh, yeah, I just feel like this is a miss on Sony's part. They have a good lineup, um, for the VR, that I think is pretty exciting. Um, but I think it's
It's
just too
exciting
big of
for
a barrier.
yeah, it's exciting for someone who likes PlayStation,
Sure. Yeah.
which is fine. Like I'm excited about it, but that's not going to get the masses. I mean, the average person is not really going to care all that much.
That's fair.
So, and I don't, I really don't know with the VR market if companies can afford to be niche right now. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
um, I think that's kind of what we're going to learn. I don't think the PSVR2 is going to fail. Um, considering they're already, and I know they only sold like half of what they were expecting so far, but when the PSVR came out, nobody was buying VR.
Right.
So we're already off on a better foot. Um, I imagine they'll probably cut the price down pretty quickly.
Hmm.
Um, I would say probably by this time next year, it'll be at least $50 cheaper. I don't know if they might even run it even more aggressively around the holidays just to get it into people's hands.
Right.
Because they need to. I mean, I think Sony needs to understand. It seems like they've really put the investment into this space. They're paying their studios to make games, so they need to figure out, what's going to make more money, selling the hardware at a premium or getting the hardware into people's hands so they can buy the games. I imagine it's the latter.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what sort of bundles they potentially do of like console and VR, like
Yeah,
bundled together. Because you could like do something that's like a pretty darn good deal. Um, that would obviously still be fairly expensive, but um, try and make it at least a little bit easier, especially for those who aren't already like in, you know?
right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Um, yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think it's gonna fail. It just, sometimes stuff like this can kind of worry me, because like a company could make like a rush decision where they miss out on like the numbers that they were projecting, and so then they just, I don't think Sony's gonna do this, but it causes them to just go, all right, we just don't care about VR anymore. Looking at you, Vita.
Mm.
So been a fresh wave of Sony and Xbox should get into the handheld, but I've been seeing Vitas pop up on my timeline again, and
Yeah, me too. This week.
big fan, big fan. As somebody
Oh yeah.
who just bought a PSP Go in 2023, big fan. Um, all right, on to Xbox. This is what good game bad game's all about. All right, much like politics, we love to cross the aisle and shake hands or whatever they say, and then we steal your social security. So Xbox, it was just announced they're getting into the old Sony game of raising their prices. Now, you said that there was a price raise in India.
Yeah, it looked like at the beginning of the month.
Okay.
Um,
Wait, well, we're recording this on February 1st, so beginning of January.
Beginning of January.
Cool. Not to be that guy, but to be that guy.
I'm not sure if it was just the Series S. I literally just saw this when I was trying to find the article for
The
the one in Japan.
Yeah.
But I
So,
guess it was, yeah. So in India, it was increased to about $485. The Series X.
okay.
Oh wait, hold on. I don't know. This article's from Game Rants. Take that for whatever it's worth.
Okay. Well,
No, I think this is the Series S.
the Series S is $480.
Right.
I just love the no, this is for the Series S. I'm shocked, and then there's just a pause. Just no, wait. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the thing. So
this
like,
is.
it's something I was gonna bring up. Like, that technically could be right because sometimes there are like really strange price disparities across markets. Um,
Yeah, and I don't think India's market is doing particularly well right now.
right. So it that technically could be right. But specifically, this raise that we're talking about that is coming on February 17th is happening in Japan. It's not like as widespread as like when Sony was like, yeah, PS5 is getting a price increase everywhere, basically. Um, but kind of like what you were just touching on, it was somewhat surprising to see. So the Xbox Series X is jumping from $422 to 460. Obviously yen, but converted to US dollars. And the Series S is jumping from 253 to 291. It's interesting because like 250 is pretty much like the going price point of a Series S anymore. Like, I don't know if it was ever like an official drop or if it's just constantly on sale for that, but I feel like it was like an official drop, and now I'm sometimes seeing it on sale for 200 even.
Yeah, I think it was like an unofficial official drop.
Right. Yeah. Like it's like, yeah, we all understand that this is just what it is now.
Right.
Um, but it's interesting that like both of these are increasing, um, but still below what like the opening value was in terms of American dollars. And then we kind of went down the rabbit hole a little bit and found that the opening price of like the Series X was $385, I think is what you said.
Yeah. Yep. In Japan.
So that's now technically it looks like doing a second jump. Um, but again, I don't understand all the intricacies of how prices fluctuate in other countries. I only understand how it happens, here in America. And typically tech stays, one consistent price and like normally only drops. I feel like pretty rare to see tech increase in price here. Am I crazy?
No, yeah. I mean, it's generally the price that it comes in at is the price. I mean, I would say excluding the iPhone, where they are repackaging the same thing with small improvements every year, and and oftentimes increasing the price.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Um yeah, I more so I guess meant like PS5 releases at $500. It's only going to be $500 until 3 years later and it's $450, right?
Right. The American method is selling it for a much higher price than it should be at the beginning and then going
Right.
down.
So yeah, so it could be totally normal and like nobody bats an eye at a jump from 385 to 422 and then from 422 to now 460. It's just like, yeah, that's just how things go. It's just constantly moving and flowing. It's very fluid. Um, which as long as it works both ways and it's sometimes fluid in how it comes back down, I think that's pretty nice. But sometimes you just want the heart yearns for what it doesn't have or whatever.
I think we talked about economies and such, like with India. I think the reason it's so expensive is just because of India's economy. Like they're really hurting right now. I don't know, as is a lot of the world, but they're particularly hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Japan is interesting. I never really considered the fact that compared to the US dollar, it was cheaper. So my assumption is they priced it lower to get more people in.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where I wanted to somewhat focus on because I think there's been a consistent talking point that Microsoft and Xbox need to do a better job in like the Japanese market. Um, and so kind of when I first saw it, it was like, ooh, this is bad. Like this is a really like, or this is really bad. I mean, a price increase I don't think is like really ever good technically. Um, but I was saying like, oh, this is really bad. Like kind of like betraying what I feel like they've been doing really well to like build. But if anything, now that we're like digging into this a little bit, it's like, oh yeah, no, like they were really going for it, and now just like circumstances be what they are, you know, they need to increase it. And again, from my understanding, it seems like this is just like kind of like more normal, and like we're the weird ones. Um, so like at first it felt like a sound the alarms, but if anything, I think this just proves that like no, they're actually committed to it. Like it looks like selling it at like a lower price point and everything to really like get people in and like get them into the Microsoft ecosystem and like go from there.
Yeah, and Microsoft has seen their market share in that market increase. So now they can be like, okay, we've got what we need. We need to start making some money on this. So we're gonna raise the price. We've already got people in the ecosystem. They're signing up for Game Pass. They're buying games, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Um so I don't know. I mean, I definitely think it was worth talking about, and I'm curious to see where some people decide to run with this. Um, it's also interesting uh, because again, when PlayStation did all their increases, Phil Spencer was pretty adamant that like there weren't going to be increases. And then I think like not too long ago, he somewhat backtracked on that and said like, if it needs to happen, it may happen. Never certainly giving anything like set in stone. So it's interesting that like, if the Indian increase like was fairly quiet because we didn't know about it until looking into this. And now it's just simply one country that they're talking about. It'll be interesting to see if others start to pop up or if it's just, very circumstantial.
Right.
But yeah. Anything else on Microsoft?
No, I'm excited to talk about our next topic, and we got to go.
Hell yeah. All right. So, just like last week, thank you for listening. If you'd like to stick around, Mike and I are now going to talk about The Last of Us, episode 3. Also, I don't think we talked about it last time, but shout out to The Last of Us being renewed for season 2 already.
Now wait till they renew it for a season 3. What comes first, Last of Us Part 3 or season 3 of The Last of Us?
A real Game of Thrones race against George R. Martin.
Yeah,
Uh,
Neil's got himself in a bind.
All right. I think we're gonna, this is your last chance to get out because I think we're gonna be pretty spoilery with this episode because I feel like impossible not to. And this
Oh yeah,
episode does deviate from the game.
we
So
haven't talked about any of the episodes yet, though. To be fair,
yeah, we didn't go too deep into the first two. We just kind of talked about the overarching thing. We can touch on all of them, I guess, but I don't know. We only have so much time, and I
yeah,
I
no, that's
feel
fine. We
like
can just talk about it. We can just talk about episode 3.
yeah, I feel like episode 3 is the first one to like deviate the most.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, holy shit, what an amazing episode!
Oh, it was so good.
It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And it did deviate from the game. And I think it did it in the best way possible. Like when you're going to deviate from the source material, this is how you do it.
Right.
Like, oh, it was so good. And this is why I said at the beginning, before the first episode release, why I thought the show could potentially be better than the game because you got a whole ass episode exploring Bill and how he got to be what he was, when they get to him in the game. Um, Even though again it technically deviates a little bit, but it really tells you Bill's story. Which, you know, I think is great. Like being able to peel back the layers on some of these characters that you really only get so much time with in the game. Um, and getting to explore them and their motives and, you know, again, why they are the way they are is just amazing.
It was.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, please.
It was particularly interesting with this because, like, I just remember playing The Last of Us, and you get to like Bill's camp,
Mm-hmm.
and 90% of your time there is avoiding traps or
Yeah.
getting caught in traps and getting out of them.
Yep.
And you finally meet Bill, who they spend the first couple hours of the game talking about and how important he is, and you have like one conversation with him, and you're on your way.
Right. Like
So
he gets you from point A to point B together, and then, like, yeah, that's it.
yeah,
He helps you
so
circumvent the traps, basically.
it was so interesting to actually like have substance here. And I was like halfway through the episode and I had to pause. And I'm like, and then that's when I realized I was halfway through the episode. I was like, what are they gonna get to here?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, at that point I realized they're not gonna follow the game script anymore.
Yeah. So I was curious. I was like, are we gonna get 2 episodes of Bill? Are we getting like Bill's life and then at the tail end is when we get like the Joel and Ellie arrive to Bill, and then like it kind of picks up from the game. That's kind of where my mind was going with it at first. Um, and then ultimately, we know that's not going to be the case because the whole episode is just like a love story in the apocalypse and just so phenomenally well done. Um, I think like taking the creative liberties to have it be that like, uh, you know, in the game, if I remember correctly, Frank isn't technically dead. He just left Bill.
I I don't know. I
Or he
frankly
or
don't
he
remember
might have
Frank
died.
being in the game.
So Frank isn't a person in the game. Frank is a letter in the game. And I can't
Okay.
remember if it's like a goodbye letter because like but anyway, uh the other thing is that I guess people somehow missed in the game that like Bill said multiple times that Frank was his partner. Which I guess could be uh interpreted as like partners in crime. But
I missed that for whatever that's worth.
yeah, but I mean, I played Last of Us Remastered right before Last of Us 2, so I played it fairly recently, and I definitely picked up on it then. Like, oh, I was like, oh, Bill's gay. Like, like he's this like hardened like he's like he feels like a very like closeted gay, where it's like I don't want people to know I'm gay. Like, it's
Mhm.
like I can't be gay, but like he is, and that's what the show kind of does, right? Like he's he kind of like doesn't want to like admit it. It feels like, but it's like Frank is there, and he's like, I know, and it's like, wow, this was like masterfully done. And I love that instead of making it like Bill just can't change, he's a stick in the mud, he can't change his ways no matter what. It's like no, in these circumstances, like you like you find a way, right? Like you
Mhm.
realize what's actually worth it and stuff. And it was just so beautiful. Ugh, incredible. Just incredibly done.
It's so it's so interesting for me, and, like, with I don't know how to phrase it, but with, like, certain aspects of my background, I
Mhm.
I I finished that episode, and, like, I definitely cried at parts of it, and I at the end of that episode, I was like, "I never expected a gay couple to make me cry." And yeah, it was just such a good story, and then, I think I immediately went on Twitter and just saw, like, everybody loving it, like, people who like, just people from media saying
Yeah.
how good it was, CNN said how it was one of the best, if not the best TV episode
Yeah. Yep.
in recent memory, and then just, like, immediately filling with dread because
Yep.
I know there are people who are probably watching this show thinking it's going to be another Walking Dead, and they're gonna get to this episode, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah.
And that kinda breaks my heart.
No, definitely. I'm definitely with you there. Um and I mean I have seen a good bit of like oh wow, they deviated too much sort of deal. And it's just like nah, this is art, right? You know, true to its form. And,
Mhm.
TVs and movies, if anything, should be able to do this better. I mean, you brought up like you're with Bill for one trip, and that's really all you get of him. You get a lot of the context from Joel outside of being with Bill, like
Right.
in terms of like into like his character. And I think it's ignorant to act like Ellie from the jump was always like gay. So it's pretty ignorant to act like The Last of Us wasn't always from the jump this like welcoming experience for all walks of life, we'll say. Um And I think people just like, I think some of it's just like people want to stay in their ignorance.
Mhm.
And like at the end of the day, so be it. Whatever. You can't change everybody, I guess. Um, but to act like, you know, because Bill isn't just like kind of like at the end of the day just like a total piece of shit, and like was able to like find something in the afterlife when he was just going to be a recluse the entire time. um I think like the note, right, to Joel that he left, that was like to Joel or anyone else, and then it like opens with like, Joel, since you probably found this. Like I thought that was great. And then it was like you're like going like Ellie's reading it, and it gets to the end, it's like, I never liked you. I still don't like you or whatever. And it's just like, no, that's perfect. That was like perfectly done. Like that's Bill. Like you still got Bill. And I don't know. It was great. I will say, anybody who complained um that Ellie and Bill weren't together on screen, I'm with you there. That's like the one thing I'm like a little sad we ended up missing out on. But to miss out on that for what we got is like fine with me. You know what I mean? Like the two things I was like, all right, we didn't see Joel hanging upside down. Uh which maybe we'll still get later, but that's the Bill part, right?
Mhm.
Again, they can technically bake that in anywhere. But we didn't get Joel hanging upside down fighting off zombies, and we didn't get Bill and Ellie interacting, which was peak, uh, banter in the game. Um, but we still got like Bill and Joel's interactions with that like flashback scene, which I thought that was amazing. That like that's context you don't get in the game that you can get. Like this is how their relationship was built. If you're gonna deviate, they did it in the perfect way.
Yeah, and there was like I understand like missing out on the Bill and Allie stuff, but
Yeah,
now I think the show has set up Joel with like another major emotional impact that
yeah,
will go with him throughout the story that I don't know that you necessarily got in the game.
right,
And then
right,
also the fact that they kind of reveal that the revolver that Joel carries was Bill's.
right. The one that Frank
So he's
sold to him.
also right.
Yep.
So he's also carrying that along as well. So yeah, I thought it was so good. And it's again so funny, like you think you know the story. Like we've known the story for 10 years now, I hate to say
Right.
it. And yet you're still getting so much backstory and picking up on things you missed and honestly seeing it through another perspective. You know,
Hmm.
I have like I played The Last of Us when it first came out and ripped through it in a day or two or whatever. And like I've kind of picked it up now and then, just kind of like I felt like getting in the story, but I haven't like played it fully through since.
Right.
And I would say my perspectives have completely changed in 10 years. So to get this story again, it's just it's totally new for me. Even though
Hmm.
I think I know what's going to happen. It's a totally new story.
100%. Yeah. Um, the other thing that we get that you couldn't have possibly gotten if Bill knew about Ellie is that in the note he's telling Joel to like take basically whatever, and like whatever he does at the end of the day he like needs to protect Tess, right? Like do take whatever you have to do, whatever you have to do, just like make sure you protect Tess.
Right.
And that's what he says in like the note. And like Joel, like you can kind of see it like on his face where it's like he's sad because Tess is obviously no longer with them. But I think he like realizes it makes him think about Tess and how Tess also said like, you need to, like, this girl is like our only hope. And so I think it triggered the like waterfall of like Tess, and then he thinks of Tess and Tess telling him like, Ellie is it, like you got to do it. And so then I think like Bill basically in a way reinforced that for him. I also saw somebody point out, and this just made me want to cry, that after Joel showers, he's wearing the same shirt as Frank was basically like for like a majority of the episode. And that just
Oh,
is like,
really?
yeah, it's like the same plaid shirt. and it's like a flannel, and it's just like, oh my god, my heart, it just hurts. Yeah, wow, just definitely my favorite episode so far. I think for me it goes 3-1-2. I think one just had
Mhm.
me so freaking hyped because of just like, I mean, we were getting into it, right? And like some of the scenes were just like so like 1-to-1 and so amazing to see on like TV. Um, but yeah, just amazing.
I was, I think this is gonna be my last point because I need to
Yeah, I know you gotta jump.
jump pretty quick, but um, I forget who it was on Twitter, but like a really profound statement they made was like, this is the first time that they could remember, and this was their personal opinion, but it sounds like something that could be absolutely like fact. The first time that they can remember that like a gay couple actually made it to death together in like a show or a movie, because usually the narrative is like something gets blown up in in their relationship and they leave each other,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
and it
normally
was
like a
just like
tragedy.
right. And to the fact that they made like a Romeo and Juliet story of it, where they're actually like together till the end, was interesting, and um, I think that's why it made people so emotional because it's like something that a lot of people have never seen.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Tip of the cap. Very well done. I know you have to jump, so we'll wrap it on up. Thank you all so much for listening. If you stuck around, let us know what your thoughts are on The Last of Us TV show thus far. We will uh, keep doing this, so definitely let us know. Uh, Otherwise, if you can leave us a rating and review, that's always appreciated. Obviously, sharing is the best thing you can do as well. So please send it to a buddy, send it to a pal. If you're a Bill, send it to your Frank. If you're a Frank, send it to your Bill. Uh, and yeah, thank you all so much. We'll talk to you next week.